You wanted a prediction. I think that I'm going to win the race for the 5'11" blue-eyed ginger division. I don't see anybody.
Over 200.
Over 200 pounds.
Are you over 200 today?
I think I'm slightly. I don't think anybody's going to beat me.
Not a chance. Didn't get all the poop out, so we're over 200.
Would you like to start by congratulating me on my victory?
Yeah.
Congratulate away.
Congratulations on your victory. No, actually, it is awesome. So
I won,
a genuine.
but I won.
The
5'11",
5'11", blue-eyed ginger
200-pound division.
Yeah,
Won. Not even anybody else close to me. And I actually don't know that.
I told you I saw one. I'm pretty sure. I thought it was you.
Do you think he would have been in the same? Do you think he was the exact same division?
I didn't.
Because even if he's a quarter inch taller or shorter,
I didn't stare into his eyes. I don't know.
Wow. It's nice to look into my eyes. Is that what you're saying? I think that's what you're saying. I have
Something like that.
Dreamy eyes. I've been told that. Several
Something
people.
like that.
I've also been told by several different people that don't know each other that.
No.
You know what I'm going to say?
I have a feeling of what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
Something about Tom Hardy.
No. No, but if there were a movie about my life, Tom Hardy would play me, without a doubt in my mind. No, that my voice sounds like Matthew McConaughey's without a southern accent.
You know, the funny thing is, the only person that I've ever heard say that is you frequently. So,
I'm just telling you what people have said to me, man.
I just never have met any of these people. And
It's because one of them was Chris Rumpel's ex-girlfriend. And who was... So there were two people. I'm not saying like everybody.
Wait, that was one.
I can't think of the other. They were both women. I can't think of the other one's name. But it's true, man. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm not. They're not saying like I look like him. That's not what I'm saying. Because like, I'm way better looking. But what are you doing? Are you trying to hear?
Yeah.
Trying to hear it?
I don't hear it.
You don't have to. You don't have to. I've had other people say it to me. So yeah, I won. Definitely, I won that division.
Congrats.
Thanks, man. The best part was not having any clue at all how fast I was running for the entire race.
That would drive me absolutely bananas.
Yeah, I just ran. I just started running.
I couldn't say certain, but I would bet pretty much everything that you would have come in under 2 hours had you known what your pace was.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was interesting because I was thinking about it one time while I was running. Like if somebody was like, "Well, what was the experience like?" I would just be like, "Well, essentially, I got passed for 2 hours." Is what
Confusion.
I got passed because I started in the wrong carousel for sure.
We started in the wrong carousel.
Yeah, we both should have been back. Well, you were probably fine. I should have been back farther.
I don't know. I forget. I'm trying to think of what the sign right in front of us was for.
145, I think.
145.
So yeah, you weren't that far off. I certainly was.
And I think that's...
You know the camera's on me, right?
Somehow, I didn't know that, but somehow, because of whatever you wrote, your predicted time, I think we talked about this on an episode, but it was hilarious when we got there. It was like, I don't know what corral I'm supposed to be in. The dude's like, look at your bibs. And mine said corral 3, and yours said corral 1.
Like, nope,
which
shouldn't be there.
For context, corral 1 is the very front of the line, like at the starting line. I'm like, how? How are you in the corral ahead of me? Like, what did you write down for your time? And you're like, I think an hour and a half. Like,
I can't run that fast.
So
I don't. That's just.
So we cut the difference and we started in corral 2.
That was when you asked me to sign up. I signed up that night, and that was like me doing
quick math
in my head. And I did it all wrong.
I mean, I think. But that's where I'm like, how was I in corral 3? Because if the 145 pacer was right in front of us, there's no chance at the time that I signed up for that. There's no chance that I wrote anything above 145. So why was I in corral 3? I don't know what the times were for corral 3, but whatever.
I don't know. We're talking about the rock and roll half marathon. We ran it on March 16th, 2024, which was. This is the Thursday after. This is the 21st. We ran it on the 16th this past Saturday. And how it started was Chris just asked me to do it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say what happened within the first mile.
Oh no, we can do that too. That's funny. He asked me to run it, and I said, "Yeah." I just didn't. There were no plans. It was 8 weeks ago, I think, that he asked me to run it, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it."
Was it? I don't even know.
It was like 8 weeks. Yeah, like almost to the day 8 weeks. So hadn't been training for it up to that. Just running.
I mean, you were running,
but I wasn't like training to run a half marathon.
Yeah, no.
By any stretch of the imagination. So, and then we did it. I felt I was like, there wasn't hesitation, but also like I know subconsciously, because I don't know that it was totally a conscious thought, but I was like, I told this motherfucker to run 75 miles. I can't say no when he asked me to run 13.
Amen.
You know?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you'd actually do that though either. I was just like, oh, you should do this, because I just learned about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I reflect back on that conversation. We filmed out there. We were sitting on
The benches.
We recorded the podcast on the benches at the time. And I remember that you said it, and I was like, yeah, I'll look into it. And probably your exact words, I can say for sure, close to, you were like, you won't do it. And I just kind of thought to myself, like, because I can remember someone I knew from back in the day, like I was shocked that they ran a marathon. Eddie Mason was shocked he ran a marathon. I'm like, he's huge. Like I remember thinking I couldn't run 26.2 miles. And then for some reason it was in my head, like I have to run a marathon at some point. I don't know why, but it was just like, I have to know what that feels like. And then I was not getting anywhere close to ever actually signing up for that. And then when you said that, I was like, well,
Yeah.
you're going to run 26.2 during that, but just almost 3 times. And I don't know, there was something about it that I was like, at that point, would say for sure I could finish 26.2. I had no idea about pacing, but I had no idea if I could finish 74 miles in under 25 hours. That was my biggest thing whenever I started working with my coach for that, is he's like, what's your goal? And I'd already told him about the event. And I was like, to finish it. He was like, yeah, but time. I was like, under 25 hours. And he's like, all right, I've done it. This was my time. I forget what it was. And he was like, we'll get training, and then I'll tell you what a good goal is. And I remember when his goal, I think his original before I got hurt was 18 hours, which now I'm certain I could do that in 18 hours, especially having finished it and been like, all right, I did not leave it all out. But I just remember being like, hold on. Like, that means you're certain I can run. I'm not certain I can run 74 miles in under 25 hours. You're not only certain I can do it, but you think that I can beat it by,
7 hours.
Like, freaking, that's crazy to me. So I think because you were like, you won't do it, I went home and I thought about it. And I was just like, do it. Like, don't research it. Just sign up and then see what happens. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I didn't feel like I could say no. Even though I didn't have a feeling. I never thought like, it never like, what do I want to say? There's never like I don't know. There was never any ambivalence. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if it's, what?
Were you, from the time that you said yes to that to it now being done, like anything surprise you or like?
I'm surprised that I ran as fast as I did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't run that fast at all in training. I ran one, there was one day when I did like a 5-mile zone 2 run, and my average pace was like a 9:20 in zone 2. And I sent you the data from that, but it was fucking cold. Yeah. So it was like easy to keep my heart rate down. You know what I mean? So it was really cold. It was like 20 degrees that day.
And relatively flat.
And flat. I ran on the flat. Yeah. So, I didn't do any lactate work really at all. I did one 10-minute interval, and I did 4 cardiac power intervals the week before the race. I did a threshold run in January before I even knew I was going to do this. So I did no high intensity running at all that you would normally do for a half marathon. I did the longest. I did a couple 90-minute runs, and I did one like hour and 50-minute run, and that was like all I did. So I just did a bunch of I wouldn't even say a bunch. Like I consistently did zone 2 running, and I did a handful of long sessions, and that. So I didn't do any like traditional half marathon training. So if from an experiential standpoint, so from a mental standpoint, I knew I could run 13 miles. Mm-hmm. There's never a question in my mind whether or not I could do that. I didn't know how fast I could go. And so I knew I could go faster than I normally run, but I didn't know I could hold the pace that I could hold for 13 miles. So I didn't know. That was probably the biggest surprise for me.
When I saw Masha's finish time, one of our members here at the gym, when I saw Masha's finish time, I messaged her and was like, "You beat Todd." And she said, "Yeah, but he probably never left zone 2. Tell that guy to do a zone 3 run. Give a zone 3 run a try."
Yeah.
So
I didn't. Well, but the thing is like I didn't deviate from my training plan for hunting. Like, except for like the one, I would have done the hour and a half runs. I probably wouldn't have done that 2-hour run yet. But that's the only deviation. I was like, oh, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and then I'll just go run this race and see how I do. So there was no real devoted prep to trying to do it. Like I know I could go faster, and I know what I would need to do to go faster, but I don't care. So
I think though, one thing that you said to me whenever there was a point where, I don't know if you remember this, where you felt, and I think it was a very short amount of time, but you felt a pull to do the Georgia Death Race with me for like a minute.
Oh yeah.
And then you were like, but I'm not, basically.
I didn't want to devote time to it.
Yeah. And like I'm not willing to deviate. I believe, I don't know about you now, I believe that you could prep for something like that and have it be advantageous to all of your hunting prep. Like you could do your hunting prep and do that.
Well, no, but the issue with it is like for me, the other skills and things that I want to do, and the other things that like I enjoy doing, it would take away from that. So that's my thing is like from a physical standpoint. So let's say I had, how do I want to say this? Let's essentially say I didn't have any hobbies. And let's say that I had a simpler job that didn't take as much creative activity. And let's say that I didn't need the skills of hunting that I need. Sure. But like I want to focus on other things. Like I love to write. I love to practice my photography. I love to do all those kind of things. And it's like having another job on top of that would just detract from the quality of life that I want to live. So that's my thing is like, do I know that I could go out and handle the training? Do I think it would help me as a hunter? Potentially, but like it would detract from my life in a way that I don't want it to. So I'm not interested, And so that's what somebody asked me today during the noon class when I was hanging out, if like I want to double that and run a marathon. I was like, no, I don't. I have no desire.
I don't even want to run a marathon. I would do 100-miler. I would say yes to 100-miler before I would commit to a marathon.
Somebody asked me what did they ask me last night? If I want to do it again and see if I can go faster. I'm like, no. I don't know. It's like, what I said is like, I have no plans to do another one. And like there's nothing in me that's like, man, I need to do that better than I did it. Because I know that I did the best that I could do based on based on everything that I had access to, based on the way that I trained, based on everything. Like I did the best that I could have done in those circumstances. So I'm comfortable with that. It's not like there was never a point where like I didn't stop and walk. I didn't take it easy on myself. Like I did what I needed to do to do what I thought I could do as best as I could. So there's no part of me that feels any sense of regret from the way that I approached it. So I don't feel like I need to go try to do it faster. And I have no plans to do another one. But if someone was like, hey, I really want you to run this with me, I'd probably be like, okay, I'll do it. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
I was going to say, I would imagine that that you could go faster. But I get what you're saying for the conditions and for everything else. Like,
yeah,
but I also think that if I really pushed you and was like, no, dude, stay on my shoulder, which we're going to talk about that because, I'll just say we're going to talk about that. But I think if I had really been like, dude, stay on my shoulder, I could have pushed you to. I don't think that it's not that you couldn't have gone faster that day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I was like, I just settled into what I know I could run.
Yeah.
And
same, I could have been pulled by someone to go faster.
There's also like, I think there's an experiential aspect to that, right? Like, that's the farthest run I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
You know? And so I don't know, like, I knew that I could hold the pace that I was at. There were times when I had people pass me, and I was like, I wrote about this in the article that I wrote for Human Predator Packman, where I was like, fuck you. And like, I wanted to start running faster. And I was like, don't be an idiot, because you don't know how this ends. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you don't know that they're being smart. They might be being an idiot right now, and they might burn out in 2 miles.
I absolutely experienced that in the Georgia Death Race. I can remember this one dude who, to me, I'm like, man, he is a pro. Like, he must do these all the time, just from everything from the gear he had and the way that he conducted himself. And we're on like a pretty hard point of the mountain. He's like, on your right, and like he passed with all the confidence in the world. And I was just like, damn. And then I remember a few hours later seeing him hunched over with his poles and someone goading him to just see if you can keep going. I don't think he finished.
Yeah.
So you never do know. Because I did feel a little bit of like, it doesn't feel too bad here. Like, follow him. And then I was like, no. So, and he pretty much died out there. So
yeah, that was one of the lessons I had, is just run your race, you know, because it's like, you don't know, you have no context on the people around you. You don't know if they're more experienced than you are. You don't know if they're making a good decision. You don't know anything. Like, I even said I had people that were legitimately, like, if you looked at us, you'd be like, Todd would smoke them. And they just, like, I'm talking about fucked up gates. I'm talking about people looks like they're stumbling for 13 miles, just blowing past me.
Yeah.
Some of those people I caught up again, like, they were going way too fast. I had legitimately, like, I'm not being a dick when I say this, but like legitimately obese people pass me and like smoke me, you know? And it's like, that's fine, man. Like, I can't do anything about that. Like, I could try to run faster and maybe smoke myself, but it's like, I did not have the experience with which to judge, to say, you know what, I can sustain another 45-second faster pace and be able to do it. Cause I just didn't know that, you know? And so based on that and the knowledge that I had, like, I did about as good as you could do.
Yep.
So, and I mean, like I said, there was one run where I held faster than the pace that I ran for the 13 miles in the entire time leading up to this. So.
Yeah. Well, when we started,
okay,
and it was pretty much like, I know that it was so early. For anyone that has a Garmin watch, you'll understand this. When you first start running, it doesn't, let's say that you basically just accelerate very fast and you're like, I'm going to get right to like an 8:30 per mile pace, like as quickly as possible, and then just hold there. Your watch is going to say like 12-minute mile, 11:40. It's going to slowly catch up. It's not instant, right? Like, there's a delay on it. So I remember Todd saying, how fast are we going? I'm like, well, my watch is catching up. So that's how early it was, like, to when we started the race. And I finally was like, all right, like, we're going a 9-minute mile. He's like, really? It doesn't feel that fast. But then I saw it. I didn't tell him this. I saw it go 8:50, 8:40, 8:30, and it settled around 8:30. And he goes, and as I saw the information, he didn't. I said, how do you feel at this pace? Like, can you hold this pace? Can you sustain this pace? And without skipping a beat, he goes, yeah. And then there was like a pregnant pause. I don't know how long it was, but it was long enough that I was like, okay, cool. Like, he's good at this pace. He goes, I don't know for how long. And
I knew that would be funny. That's why.
And I remember dying laughing and saying, well, it was implied that it was for 13.1. And you were like, I don't know. And I'll add, this was driving me nuts, because I was like thinking like I was going to kind of pace you for this. And what was driving me nuts is I thought that you would be like on my side, but from the moment we started, you were hanging a couple feet off my back right shoulder.
Stay in your blind spot.
So exactly. So every time, like immediately that I wanted to be like, all right, how's he doing? I would turn and I'm like, all right, well, he's there. But there was no, like, I thought we'd be like side by side. But from the moment we started, you were like faded off my back right shoulder. So the only way that I could tell if you were not holding pace was to turn around and be like, he's gone. Or, you know, so I remember we made a turn, remember we like wound up around a block, came down. There was like these drummers.
Took a right.
And took a right.
Yeah.
And I remember I had already lost you by that point. Like, but up the hill from that before we made the left turn when we came around that block.
Yep.
So we went right, we went left. The first left, I looked and you were maybe 10, 15 yards behind me, but you kind of gave me like a nod. I was like, all right, well, he's good. Like, and he sees me. Like, he's not like waving saying like, hey, too fast or anything. So I'm like, he's good. So again, like, I'm not going to run looking backwards. I was thinking like you were going to like come back up to me or whatever. Like maybe you were fumbling with this. We'll talk about your shorts in a second. You know, there's a lot of things that could have been going on. I'm like, he's good. By the time that we went from that left to making the right, as we made the right, I turned around and it was just a sea of people. And I did not see a Todd face in that sea of people. And so I thought to myself, I could really slow down and look for him. But then what if you pass me? And, you know, like then I don't know that it's so... I was like, I'm just going to stay at this exact pace that he told me he could sustain. And I never saw you again. So it was funny.
There's a couple of things to talk about in there. The first is...
I know what you knew I wasn't going to run with you.
Right. When you asked me to do this, and you're like, I'll just run at the pace with you, and then, you know, the pace that you can run, and then we'll see how we do, you know? And I was like, okay. And I heard that, and I was like, not a chance.
I would have.
I don't think so.
I would have.
Because as soon as you started to pull away, I was like, he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he's going to go see what he can do.
I didn't just pull away. That point in my story that you were hanging off my back right shoulder, you were never side by side with me from the moment we started.
I didn't try to be.
So you chose not to run with me.
No, you chose to run faster than me because you said that you were going to run with me.
Yeah,
I ran the pace that I felt like I could run and sustain.
So I should have been behind you.
No, you should have ran beside me.
No, I tried to.
No, you didn't. You ran in front of me.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So and I didn't. So for me, I was like, oh, this is what I predicted. Yeah. This is what I knew what would happen. And so I was like, I'm fine. I'll just run by myself and not talk to anybody for 2 hours. So, which I think that was the other interesting thing is to my lungs felt fine the whole time. It was never lungs, like my legs got heavy. My legs got tired, but it was like lungs were good, heart felt good. My heart rate didn't even get super high until the end, you know? So
I don't think even when, so I know you're going to keep running. So like, let's say you do a block where there's VO2 max intervals.
I will in 2 months.
Or threshold or, you know, tempo. Honestly,
threshold will be next month.
I've never, even on VO2 max intervals, your leg turnover starts to get hard, but like psychologically you're tired. And when you're done, your respiratory rate is for sure high, but you never feel like breathing. In my experience, I've never felt like breathing was a limiter. You just start to feel, because it's, VO2 max intervals are like a high power output, and it's just like, I can't sustain this power anymore. And what you see is like, again, it's not breathing. What I've experienced is you're trying to hold whatever pace, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's fading. Like, I don't want it to fade. And you feel like there's, like, if you pace yourself wrong, you feel like there's nothing you can do to get back to that pace. But it's not your lungs. It's that your legs just start to feel like there's cement dumped into them. So.
Yeah. No, I mean... But even so, I expected there was, because I heard people all around me just like, and that was one of the points where I was like, should I run faster? Because I heard people all around me with like incredibly labored breathing, super labored breathing.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm not breathing hard, you know? And I was like, but then it was like, I checked myself, like they might be stupid. Like they might be doing something they shouldn't be doing because their respiration rate is very high. And that's not good from a bioenergetic standpoint. So I was like, they're probably in trouble. And then I would pass some of those people, you know, or there were other people that were just like, they were gone. They did fly, you know? So I don't know. It was just, but that was just an interesting thing to me. I expected my breathing to become more labored at some point, but you know, that's the thing with all of the aerobic conditioning volume that I have done and how much, nasal breathing I have done is you condition your respiratory system to handle that. Like, so I did feel there was rawness in my throat and lungs a little bit for like the next day or two, but it wasn't like bad. But that's just a volume thing, right? Because it's just I ran at that pace for 2 hours, 2 hours and 4 minutes.
I also think there's a difference. Like someone this week asked me, I don't remember like exactly how we got there, but essentially the question was like, it's not healthy. Like I guess that's more of a statement, but they kind of said it like looking for like they're like, well, why'd you do it? Like, why have you done like these different, like the Georgia Death Race? Like, and then you just sort of like, yeah, I'm going to go send a half marathon without really training for it. But even training for it, like 13.1 miles, like it's not healthy, is it? And this is someone like with a degree in kinesiology and like smart individual, right? And it's like, I kind of thought about it and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it for like pretty much any performance. Like if you're really going out and performing, not healthy, but there's a difference between performance and training. But I think if you look at that person who's like able to send it, but they're like super labored breathing the whole time, it might just be a game day strategy. But if they're doing all of their running like that and we know people like this and everything is to suffer, for sure not healthy.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's to say that running I think you can run long distances and have a net positive benefit to your health.
Yeah.
Depends on your approach.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I think it's a volume thing for sure. I don't know. I also don't think that you have... how do I wrap all this into one thing? Obviously, am concerned. When I say concerned, I mean, I think it's important about my health, right? Because I want to be able to do the shit that I want to do for as long as I can. But it's not the only concern. You know what I mean? And that's if that's the only concern, like...
Wouldn't do a lot of things.
You're going to miss out on a lot of shit, man. So I don't know. I mean, I don't see how running a half marathon is unhealthy. I don't, unless you don't have the equipment you need to do it, then for sure. Like it's graded on your level of preparation. And that's one of the things that, accruing so much training volume and having the general physical preparedness that we have allowed us to go out and not really train for a half marathon and go out and do okay, and so that's now if someone had trained differently in a stupid way or had had used the strategies like you were talking about or just weren't even generally prepared to do it, then sure, it could be an unhealthy thing. But I don't know, like it's not everything's about health.
Yeah.
So some things are.
Let's talk about your shorts. So
that they weren't short enough?
They weren't short enough. I was going to wear my 3 inchers. The thing with like a 3-inch short or even a 5-inch short is you have to consider...
There's still plenty of room for your ding-ding.
Just no concerns there. Is chafing. You have to... Chafing. You have to consider, do you have enough razors to shave? No.
Wait, do you really? Did you really?
No.
Oh.
But
I would wax that shit. Just the inside of your thighs, just.
But did you have any chafing type problems afterwards?
Not at all.
Every freaking time, man, my butt cheeks.
Not one.
Every time, even after that.
I see. That was one of the things. Like, if you actually followed the plan and you did run with me, I had a butt cheek chafing joke lined up for the camera.
I did. I had a little like red, almost like ring, like right along that outer. Like
you should have got some squeaky cheeks.
If you were to
from
grab
your dad.
some cheeks and pull them apart, it would be right where your fingers.
There's nothing I want less than to grab your cheeks and pull them apart.
I'm just saying, picture it, Todd. Right where your fingers are grabbed, that's where the red lines were.
I did see it in my head. I saw it. You should have talked to your dad. So, your dad literally, back when we would fish together, he had squeaky cheeks at the ready all the time. He gave Josh Hill
on the boat.
He gave Josh Hill a packet of squeaky cheeks because he knew he was doing a long hike the next week.
I think it's
and then Josh forgot the squeaky cheeks. You know what happened? Butt cheeks chafed.
Yeah. It's like it's some kind of powder, right?
Yeah, it's like a powder. Yeah. It's like a talcum almost. But yeah, and Josh did the Standing Stone Trail in Pennsylvania, which is like 74 miles. Super chafed cheeks by the end. Yeah.
I mean, that's, I know that you love to make fun of him, but one of the things that I think they called it swamp butt. Goggins talks about it. I don't know if it was on a podcast or if it was in his second book, but about like if you're not prepared for chafing when you're going through one of the selections that he did, I would imagine probably
buds, because there's so much fucking sand. Yeah.
And they call it, I think he said it was called,
and there's salt in the water.
But it starts off as like the chafing where you're like, all right, it burns, like whatever. But then it starts to get like chewed up. It probably was because the sand starts to get like chewed up. And it's just like, when you get there, like just imagine that pain, right?
Oh,
and like,
that would be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough shit, man.
But the real about your shorts. So we're at the truck before we even walk to the starting line. And I'm like, Todd's like, nutrition. I'm like, I got you covered. I'm going to bring gels, like this, that, the other thing. And so we're at the truck and I'm like, I'm not going to bring my cell phone because I don't want to carry it. But I was carrying that camera. And so I was like, I definitely don't want to carry both. And then I chucked gels up into the front seat for him to load up. And he was like, I think you said to me, are you taking anything, like a bag? And I was like, no, like I don't know, like a hip
like
bag or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, why? And you were like, oh, because I was going to ask you to carry my stuff if you were. And I was like, absolutely not. And so then when I went to the back, this is before I went to the back, then I went to the back and I threw the gels up front and you were like, where are you carrying these? And I was like, my compression shorts have pockets that keep them like glued to your leg. Because the last thing you want running is like the shaking up and down. And
shit, sorry.
And so I was like, I'm going to put them in the pocket they go in my compression shorts. And you were like, oh. And I'm like, what? And basically, you probably had on some cotton Hanes, like...
No, they were nylon shorts or whatever.
No, not your shorts. Your...
Underwear?
Underwear.
No, I had synthetic underwear on.
Okay.
I don't own cotton underwear. Come on, bro.
So
I spend enough time hunting and camping that I don't own cotton underwear. It's all synthetic and wool, sweetheart.
Sweetheart. All right. So anyways, but they definitely don't have pockets or anything like that.
No,
so you were like, I'm just going to put everything in the pockets of these shorts. So then I'm like, all right, this is a bad idea, but I didn't say anything. And then we walk out of the parking garage. We have a decent hike to get to the starting line. And remember, we stopped off into a Panera to go to the bathroom. We're leaving the Panera, and you're like, yo, hold up. And you are trying to tie your shorts as tight as you possibly can. Took like a whole block for him to get them as tight as he wanted them. But looking at you, your pockets were very full. Your pockets were very full.
I also brought my wallet.
If you look at the picture that you posted...
Oh, I'm carrying my cell phone. There's nothing left in my pocket.
There's nothing in your pockets?
Just my wallet.
Okay.
Just my wallet. Because I brought my wallet because I was like, if I just put my ID
in my... Your wallet was in your pocket?
Yep.
I was saying, it looked like there was something in your left pocket in that picture.
It would have been in my right pocket.
Or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of
there was, because I was like, if I just put my ID and my bank card in my pants, they're going to fall. I'm going to lose them. And so I carried my cell phone, and I had 2 gels in one pocket, 2 gels and my wallet in the other pocket. So, yeah, that's how I ran.
Just think, these are like loose shorts. That stuff's bouncing around.
I was fine. Didn't even notice it. Didn't even notice. The gels were interesting because I always, like, every time I hike, like if I go do stuff that's longer duration, I either act like a child and I take gummy bears, or I just take the honey stinger, like stroopwafel things. And so the gels were interesting because
way more calories in both of those. Way more
in the gels. Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And I'm happy I had the gels like that. But I would get sick in my stomach for like a couple minutes, and then it would go away. But every time I had one, I was like, I knew I was going to get sick in my stomach for a couple minutes, and then I was fine.
Tummy Todd. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It's your nickname. Those are... what'd you think about the flavor?
Oh, they're fine. Yeah. I feel like if I'd have gone for a longer period of time, I'd have wanted something savory. But they were fine. They didn't...
So those are spring energy gels. If you do roll up to a race and people see you with them, they'll go, oh...
Why?
You're rich. Because they're stupid expensive. Oh. Yeah. And because I remember like at the Georgia Death Race, like I didn't know how much to pack, and I had like at your one I forget if it was a gallon or 2 gallons limit that you were allowed to put a Ziploc bag to go to one of the aid stations. I filled that sucker with a lot of Spring Energy gels. I remember I got to the aid station and I was crouched down to like change them over, and the cameraman comes up and he was like, what do you do for work, man?
How could you afford all that? It's called I can write them off.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're not that much, but they're dollars per pouch. I forget how much.
Oh goodness, I feel like I owe you money now.
No. But there's 180 calories. I don't know if you paid attention to that.
I did look at that.
180 calories. It tastes exactly like applesauce.
Yeah, it did. It was good.
Goes down fast, easy. Those were awesome.
It was nice to not have to chew.
Yes.
So that was because I've also had like the energy blocks before, like the gummy blocks. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And those are fine, but it was nice to not have to chew because I was just like down the hatch and then it was over.
Yeah. Running and chewing is weird, but I do for the Georgia Death Race. I forget what frequency. I think every 40 minutes I was doing it. But there's also, you get to a point for that long where you're like, I do not want to. I don't want to. I know I'm supposed to. I don't want to.
Eat.
Yeah. And it's not that you're not hungry. It's funny. Rich Roll, and I don't know, why is Lane Norton on like everyone's podcast?
Because he has a book coming out.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a different discussion than the Diary of a CEO one. It's really good because Rich Roll
is vegan or something,
vegan,
right? Yeah.
and it's the most. It's an awesome conversation. But they talked about Rich's experiences with long endurance events being appetite suppressing, except for swimming. And then Lane was like, "Oh, there's research to back that up." But I would force myself. It wasn't always forcing myself, but a lot of it was forcing myself to have a Spring Energy gel, the awesome sauce ones that taste like applesauce, 180 calories, because there's different flavors and there's different use cases. There's ones that have caffeine in them. There's ones that have, I forget, like I have 3 different types. The other ones taste horrible.
Oh, really?
Horrible. But I would have the awesome sauce one with stroopwafel. And
that's so much sweet shit, dude.
Yes.
That's like
chewing up though. There's something, I don't know. I can squeeze that gel and I can keep running and I'm fine. But when I'm like fumbling with a stroopwafel and like the packaging and then like biting it off and chewing, like it messes with
it's more complicated.
Your
motor
gait
pattern.
and yeah. So.
Well, you ever notice, like, remember back in the day when we would do the ankle traction on people, like when we were at Victory? Did you ever watch people's mouths?
No.
Oh my God. People's mouths did the wildest shit when they were trying to move their ankles.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can kind of picture it now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know. I didn't feel, I think one of the issues is like, I think I definitely felt the appetite suppression part of like doing shit like that. Your body heat's elevated, all that kind of stuff. But I just knew like on the half hour I was doing it, you know? But I'm also, one of my talents is force feeding. I'm good. Like everybody, my buddy Christian and I, the first time we went to Wyoming, I don't know how much you've been at altitude, but typically when you get higher, you just don't feel like eating. You don't feel like drinking. Like you don't feel like any of that shit. And so we were at about 9,000 feet. So not super high, but I mean, we live at 400 feet above sea level. So it's pretty high for us. And him like being like, I'm being like, dude, you got to eat. Because we had just hunted all day. He's like, I'm not hungry. I can't eat. And I was like, I'm eating. And I sat there at the table and just force fed myself 2 Mountain House meals because I knew, and it was just like, everybody was just like grossed out by me just sitting there and just forcing myself to eat.
I wonder why though.
What do you mean?
Like why your appetite suppressed at elevation?
I don't remember. I used to know off the top of my head, but I don't remember exactly why. But like, you don't feel like eating at all. You don't feel like eating. You don't really feel like drinking. You're just, you know. But the thing is like, if you don't, like, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
If you get hot, that's a problem. Like you start to get a bad headache. So you gotta, that's why like, I'm not saying I'll never do it again, but if I'm, it'll be a different approach, but like driving out there, like that's, you're underslept, you're dehydrated because you don't want to piss all the time in the truck, you know? So, and those are the 2 worst things
I
that
never
you can
piss
do.
in my truck, to be clear.
I do. I've pissed all over it. No, but you don't want to stop to piss. And, So you just get dehydrated, and dehydrated and undersleeps are like, that's like you're walking yourself right into altitude sickness. Yep.
So did you play any mental games with I mean, I know that you had different like self-talk stuff, but I guess specifically when it came to distance and you saw different signs that said like 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, were there any thoughts that went through your head, and did you kind of like chunk goals and play any mental games with that?
I don't know. Now I'm trying to remember. I know what I did. I kept like, so I'll try to wrap it up. There was never a point where I was like, I had to push myself to finish this. Like, I never thought I couldn't do it. I never like felt that kind of a mental tax. But there were times when I was like, this could be fucking over. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not having super amounts of fun. And so I just wanted it to be over. But I knew that wasn't a possibility at the time. So I would tell myself, I'll just another hour. And like, even as I got past an hour, it's like, you've already run for an hour, just another hour. And even if I got to like, I knew I had probably half an hour left, I would look at it like, well, you're just running for another hour, you know? And just like, that's the one little mental game that I played with myself. But there was that, and I just had I didn't think I'd have to, but I made sure I said to myself, like, you're not walking.
Yeah.
Like, cause even I saw some people kind of like interval the last like 3 miles.
I don't get that.
They'd run like fucking hard, and then they'd walk, and they'd run hard, and then they'd walk. And I'm like, I'm just going to run. And then a handful of those people I passed. But that was really the it. It's just like, you got another hour. Just keep running. You got another hour. And then the only, the mental stuff that I paid attention to just to keep my head in the game and make sure that like, well, I was thinking about how to say this in writing, and I don't even know if I'll do a good job with it now, but I can't say that I didn't have any fun. And like, one of the headlines, like the subheads I was going to write is, you can have fun doing things that you don't like, And so there were times when my mind would start to drift, and I'd just try to notice things. Like I noticed the crew team practicing on the river. I noticed how blue the sky was. I noticed the birds. I noticed smiles on people in the crowd. I looked at
signs.
I looked at funny signs. Yeah. I noticed I just tried to come back into my body, and I felt my feet strike the ground. I felt my legs, and just like stayed with the sensations, because, and not in every instance, but in an instance like that. And this was not a high degree of suffering, so don't even think that I'm going there. But it's enough to be like, if you get into a negative headspace, you could wind yourself up into quitting, And so the only time you really suffer is when you want a circumstance that's different than the circumstance that you're in. And so I just made sure that I never like put myself there. Like, you're running, dude. Like, and so I would focus on my footfalls. I'd focus on how I felt. I'd focus on how good my lungs felt. I'd focus on things like that just to pull me back into the moment. Like I said, I'd notice something pretty around me,
Wait, what?
Pretty, something pretty. I did silently propose marriage to at least 30 women. That ran past me. It's like, there was motivation to run faster, but I didn't. And then I said to myself, it's a beautiful day and you're healthy enough to do this. Yep. Just run until you're done. Because it's like, that was it. The one sign that kind of thought was funny is on the one turd. It said, maybe you saw it. It said, "Remember, you paid to do this."
Yes,
did you see
yes,
that sign?
Yes. That was pretty early on. It was at that sharp turn.
Was it early?
It was like a hard U-turn.
Yeah, it was like
After
it was like mile 3 or something.
You came underneath the bridge,
Yeah.
went down. There was like a hard U-turn, and I saw a dude just stand there with a sign that said,
that shit cracked me up. Yeah. So it was that was funny to me. So it was just stuff like that, where it's just like,
I saw a girl out riding a bike, and her shirt said "Running sucks,"
which is funny,
right by the race.
Which is really funny.
And there was a dude that passed me running very fast, and his hat said "fuck run." He had a backwards hat on, and it said "fuck running,"
which is also.
I was
funny.
like, all right,
yeah. So I don't know. And then I just tried to enjoy the environment. Like, I'd listen to the music when we'd pass bands, and just notice things. I'd legitimately notice smiles on other runners' faces, or I'd notice how like determined somebody looked. And I was like, man, we're just running, It's not a big deal. So, and that kind of kept me in the moment. And I think that that was a good tool. And then just the gratitude of knowing that I had the ability to do it, because a lot of times when I get in hard situations and I have to use mental skills, like I use segmenting or, stuff like that. I don't necessarily go to gratitude in situations like that. So it was nice to add that to the Rolodex.
So we're doing another one. And
I mean, if you asked me, I probably wouldn't say no, unless it contradicted something else that I wanted to do. But that's what I said. Like, if if somebody asked me if I whenever maybe I get a girlfriend again, something like that, and she's like, "Will you run this with me?" I'd probably be like, "Yeah."
When I was at Penn State, was it even my senior year? I don't know what year it was, but there was, for a little bit, there was this girl I really liked, and we started hanging out, and she was a big runner. And she's like, "You run?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I do.
And she was like,
"With you, I do."
And she was like, she's like, "Oh, like I'll swing by." She was like, "Just meet me out in the front, we'll run." And I don't know how far we ran, because I definitely didn't have anything back then that was tracking, but we ran and we ran and we ran and we ran. And
it was 2 miles.
And I don't know, it probably was. But what I do know is I played it cool. We talked, everything. It went pretty well. Also a lot younger. So like, but I remember the next day, my calves, and I was just like,
you already have dad calves,
They hurt so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think I've ever dated somebody that like ran. No, I don't think I have. No, me neither. So I would do it. I mean, if I got asked, I would probably say yes if there wasn't a conflict, but I'm not, for me, I have no desire to say, "Oh, I can go. I need to go be sub 2 hours," or something like that. I don't care.
Like where I said that I would do 100 miles before I would do a marathon. I don't know that I ever want to train with as much intensity as I did to get ready for the Georgia Death Race, and even as I was doing to get ready for the 50 miler, because at that time, going back to your point about hobbies, that was my hobby. Right. And it was like, and it's fun, but as soon as I started jiu-jitsu, and it's like, there's a difference between, and I have hobbies of solitude. For the most part, I like to fish by myself. Yeah, we go out on a boat sometimes and like whatever, but like one of my favorite things is just to go down to the river and just wade. Even when you and I go together, like when we've gone out to West Virginia, it's like we don't stand shoulder to shoulder. It's like we wade and go all over, but like, but with jiu-jitsu, like it's fun to go do that with other people. Sure. And now that I'm doing that, and I don't see myself not doing that for the foreseeable future, like I don't want to spend 7 to 9 hours a week just running. However, I would sign up for a 100-miler and just play the volume game, but I would probably do it with multiple sessions a day that were shorter, and accrue volume that way, and not do a whole lot of like crazy intensity that would beat me up and take away from my ability to put forth physical effort in other arenas.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying I'm signing up for one. What I am going to do, and I think my biggest lesson learned, I mean, I have it up there on my, annual goal for this year, is to do the run, carry, ruck of the whole WNOD. My huge takeaway from the half marathon without really training for it, I think I ran once or twice in 5 months, is that, yeah, I could do it. Yes, I'm happy with my time. I also know I could have gone faster. I didn't like push. I did not like take myself to a limit on that. However, that was at a slower pace than a training run that I did on Monday, October 13th, at about the peak of my train up. It was slower than that, considerably slower than that. And that Monday run, I turned around, and you could say, well, that one was track. It was relatively flat because you ran most of it on a track. Yes. But a lot of my training at that point was also in the mountains 2 days a week, so I was doing a lot of elevation, and I was able to do that, turn around the next day. I would lift that afternoon and then turn around the next day and run again. There's zero chance I could have done that this Saturday. Much lower intensity. You also look at heart rate from that training run in October when I trained for it. My heart rate was lower on that run than it was. And I was, many of those miles were at a 6 and change pace. My heart rate was lower than when I was running at a 7 and change pace on this one. I was pretty wrecked. Not the day of. That's not true. When we got over to One Loudon,
Yeah.
Walking kind of sucked. But all that to say, for a minute, I was considering, I said to you, like, I don't want to train for it. I just, one day when the conditions are right, I might say, like, hey, next weekend, I'm going to do the, 38.5 mile run, farmer carry 13 miles, 38.5 mile ruck. Not a chance. I learned this weekend.
You will die.
I said to you the other day, I could do that. I have all the confidence in the world. If someone's like, it's like, your family will be harmed or you have to do that this Saturday, I'll go do it. It'll be fine. In the moment, it'll be fine. And I will get it done. I promise you I get that done in under 24 hours. However, the cost that I would pay for probably the next
months.
I was going to say weeks. I don't know. Would take away from everything else that I truly want to do. And that's not what I want to do with it. So I have to think about how I want to approach that. I think I just need to add in some volume in front of it. I don't think I need a ton to meet that goal. But I think on the last episode, I said about getting ready for the Georgia Death Race, like, I don't think I needed this much volume because it felt kind of easy. And it's like, well, maybe it felt that easy because you had that much volume.
Yeah.
This Saturday, 13.1 miles was evidence of, yeah, it felt easy because you had that much volume.
Well, for sure. Yeah.
Generally physically prepared, not specifically.
Well, that's the thing. And that's one of the things that I talked about is that GPP in zone 2 will get you through. Yeah. Like, it got us through.
And it rhymes.
And it does. And we're not totally wrecked. Like,
Yeah.
we could both come back, not at a super high intensity, but we could both train this week.
Yeah.
And we both ran decent times for ourselves. So it's like, that'll get you through. It's not going to be, it'll allow you to show up at not too much of a cost and to do okay. Like, layer specific training on top of that. Of course you'll do better. But it's amazing what you can do when your body is just generally physically prepared to handle things.
It's the whole thing of like where I'm like, the type of person who can say yes, who does say yes. But now, after experiencing that, I would update it to, but also can recover from it to keep doing all the things that they love doing. Mm-hmm. And that takes a little more thought and planning.
Yeah, for sure it does. But and just going back to the beginning of the podcast, like, I didn't hesitate to say yes to you because I knew I could run 13 miles. I didn't know how fast I could do it or how well I could do it, but I knew I could do it. Yeah. So I knew I would finish. And then just, I don't know, seeing people walk was somewhat motivating when, like, that big hill between mile 7 and mile 8. Yeah. And when I saw people walking, I was like, fuck that. I'm not walking. Yeah.
Before we got to that hill, I remember I didn't look at the course at all. And I'm like,
I didn't either. I had no idea.
How many big hills could there be? But someone told you, and I think you told me that, the back half of the course has some hills.
Carroll.
And, it was Carroll. Okay. Yeah. And I remember there was a small, what most people probably would not call a hill previous to that, and I'm like, this is probably the hills, blah, blah, blah.
I remember which one you're talking about.
But once we were on that road, I know that road because you drive in that way to get to the zoo, and we've gone to the zoo multiple times in the past couple of years, and I was like, oh no, like, I know what's coming. There's this park on the left, and
the big hill is the bridge.
Yeah.
There's a bridge there.
Yeah. So, but ran the whole thing, went well. I did chuckle at the fact that, there's different bands throughout the course, and right there they put like the colonial, was that where it was the colonial one, and then they had the drill sergeant on the drill sergeant was there.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was like the colonial,
I don't remember,
like they had like the flutes, and they were next to him. So I thought that was a perfect placement. However, the drill sergeant was the nicest drill sergeant. He was yelling with the voice, but then he was saying motivational things and being nice to people. I wanted him to be like,
he called some people out.
Get your candy ass up there. Like,
he called some people out when I was running past him. Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember laughing because that shit doesn't really.
No.
I think it's cheesy.
Funny.
It's funny. Yeah, it's cheesy. So I don't know. I saw it's just funny. This has nothing to do with anything, but I was on the gym's Instagram, the Beyond Strength Instagram today, just checking some of the stuff that we did and seeing what maybe we'll add. And you must have followed them because I certainly wouldn't have. Bedros Koulian on there.
Oh yeah.
And it was like one of their whatever their things are. Where it's like the fake fucking boot camp shit that they do.
Oh, it's terrible.
And I saw these guys sitting at a desk, and they're all grown men, right? Yeah. Like I see gray in people's beards. Okay. Yeah. And then there's this guy that must have been one of the instructors just standing up, losing his shit on these guys. And I'd be like, fuck if I'm going to sit there and listen to another grown man yell in my face. Like, get the fuck out of here.
I'm not going to say it while we're recording. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I was like, that is
I'll just say this to you because
that's
you'll probably
so
know what it
obnoxious.
was. Keep in mind that you may remember a conversation with someone in the know that if it was one of the instructors.
Oh, right. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I don't know if it
It's
was him.
ironic. That
I don't know if it was him.
Yeah. It's ironic that they're yelling at people. To,
Yeah. But it was just hilarious. He was like, what are you guys doing? Like, why do you do this? How do you need this? I don't understand at all. I don't get it. Like,
But I'm not defending that whatsoever. But I think it's the same argument. The people that go through, they sign up to just do like Hell Week. And you're like, why? Like, you're not getting selected for anything. I also know, like, I think a lot of that stuff's cheesy. However, I know that Bedros has helped a ton of people. And I think
For
that
sure.
he brings a very, man, I hate to even say it this way, but I'm going to, like, like pro-masculine voice that also is open about, like, it's okay to go to therapy and it's okay
for
to
sure.
talk about
For
things that, like, I think there's massive value in that. But also, like, it's okay to be a man, and it's, you know what I mean? Like, but so the argument of like, well, why would you go through Hell Week is like, everything I understand is those guys, like, it's not about that. It's about this whole thing they have on the back end. And like, you need to go through that to get on. So it's not just like you paid for that and that's the end of it. You pay for that, you go through it. And if you finish, you're welcomed into this group where it's like continued support. And the guys that don't finish, most of them are like, and they go home and they do everything they can to prepare to come back and do it because of what's on the other side. So there's still something there. And for the people who are like, that's so dumb to do that. If you're like, do it for the military if you're going to do it. And it's the same people.
well,
I think
these guys are middle-aged though, too.
Yes, but I
Yeah.
think it's also the same people that are like, will talk shit on doing an ultra or something else. Like, do something more productive with your time. It's like, maybe you just want the challenge, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah,
who the hell are you? Now, I'm not saying this to you.
Yeah, I know.
But like, who are you to, like, that's a dumb goal. Cool. Maybe your goals are stupid in someone's mind. You know,
Well,
like,
I mean, there's also just like cynical assholes that
Yes.
people that do shit make them feel bad. I get that.
I also think there's people that prey on certain mindsets of men and women and do some stuff that you're like,
Oh, for sure.
there's probably other ways.
Yeah,
to,
yeah, because it's like there's a lot of men that feel like they don't have other dudes, they don't have a tribe,
Yeah.
they've never really done anything hard, they don't have the sense of themselves, and like that kind of stuff will get them through. And I'm not totally trying to disparage it or anything, like, but to me, it's just that's just like I'm not gonna have some grown man yell in my face. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna fight. Maybe you'll beat my ass, but like we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So it was just, I just don't know. It's tough for me to comprehend as I think someone that has good friends and also like has the ability to say like, no, I'll just go put the hammer down and I'll get something done. I don't know. It was just like obnoxious to me. I was like, what are you guys doing, man? Like, why are you letting him scream at you like that?
Which is also why I don't think that I could have. I don't think I ever would have been a good fit for the military. There's parts of me now that love endurance and problem solving and the whole like amalgamation of like physicality that I'm like, sometimes I'm like, man, I should have done something like that. And then I stop and reflect on, no, because of that side of it. Like, I'm not saying that this is a good trait, but I don't do well. And by saying I don't do well, like, I rebel of someone being like, here's what you're going to do, and just purely telling me to do something off of a position of authority. Like, I'm waiting for my moment to like where I can, I don't mean mentally put you down, but physically, like whatever we're going to compete in, like, now my sole goal is to like take your soul in something, you know what I mean? And like, I'm not saying it's a good thing.
I mean, it also could be. It's probably not as a bad thing as much as you think it is either, you know?
But I know that I would have gotten, and maybe I'd be wrong. Maybe that type of thing would have straightened me out in a different way.
Depends on your objectives. I mean, I think
But-
it depends on what you want to do, and it depends on why you're there.
Yeah.
You know? And I think having the understanding that they're going to try to get you, like that's the game. Like that's what they're doing. And that's fine if it's for something like that. And I guess maybe I just need to change my perspective, but you know, I got gray in my beard right now. There's not going to be another grown man screaming in my fucking face. Like, I don't understand that, dude. No way.
I hope someone listening to this screams in your face now.
I'll tickle him. Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm also not a joiner, so I think that's also a qualification. I am not a joiner at all. So, well, you can probably be done.
think so.
Let's go take pictures of each other, emo pictures.
You'll have to look at well, you probably already saw it if you're listening to this. And if you're listening to this and you haven't looked, you should look, because I don't even know what it's going to be, but you should look at the title card to this episode, because that's where these pictures will be. We do take these pictures the day of every single episode, and there's no plan going into it.
Nope.
Typically, you look at me and say, give me something.
Yeah.
And
yeah, your pictures are always better than my pictures because I'm a better photographer than you are.
so you can look forward to whatever ridiculous pictures we're going to put up as much as you look forward to any episode we put out. Probably more than any episode we put out. So
yeah,
you're welcome for that.